supply chain data is really a big item to share among your entire supply chain. It's part of gathering data and part of sharing data. One of the big issues you have to put up with is making certain that there's a thing out there, and that word it's seldom used today. We need to talk about it more often. It's called integrity. Will the people in your supply chain, as you go down to each person, each unit that's in there that's different, that is not part of your own corporation, is the information that you're sharing going to be something that will not share with your competitors? Keep in mind that some people in the supply chain, they're making parts for you, they're making parts for somebody else, and they could be your competitor. It might be in that little module there. It could be that it might be to their best interest to take the part that belongs to you and share it with other people. They'll make more money. It may not help you. They may not care. That's a big issue. Keep in mind that integrity is not just a contractual issue, it's one that's built over time in a thing called trust. Recently, the Wall Street Journal published a giant corporation which had set up 5 different worldwide spy stations. Well, spy stations is called industrial espionage, where they would buy items off different social media platforms and e-commerce platforms, resell them, and try to figure out how their platforms work so they can actually grab the technology and understand it and better compete against it. Those bad actors are out there on a regular basis. You have an obligation to protect your own supply chain. Pay attention to that and make certain that you have good actors in your supply chain, people that have integrity, companies that you can trust. So the retailer orders, that's a big data bank to sit down and share among your chain. That's pulling things through the system and knowing who that ultimate customer is. So if you share that, when you anticipate orders, when you see peaks and valleys in your supply chain, and also your final distribution right into your customers' hands, what does it look like? That way you can sit down and start modulating along what the supply chain is as to what you're looking at. The suppliers need to anticipate an incoming order from the manufacturer. That's got to be a big deal, but also make certain it's alerted across the whole thing. What is the expectation? What are you looking for? When they tool up their machines to get ready for you, okay, they're also getting ready to make parts overall for whatever industries they're engaged in as well. So if you have a big bulge in an order coming in the month of June, you should let them know ahead of time as to what your expectations are, how it's out there, so they can properly staff it, they can properly tool it, they can get the machines going and the production line ready to sit down and anticipate your order. The more lead time they have, the better off it's going to be, if it's all integrity, if you can trust those suppliers. Alert the different systems along the way. A lot of times you have different ways to identify things, anything from an RFID code, the radio frequency identification tags you have, as well as barcoding. Data requirements, you want to make certain you have access, not just yours down the line, but also theirs up the line as well. Look at functions, look at data in their terms, make certain the data that you're transmitting is similar data that they can actually understand and not gobbledygook in the process, and you have a different language, different computer code. You need to have that aspect going down. Otherwise, if you have different computer languages and you're trying to transmit down to this module over here, you're not going to have that spectacular level for communication level that we talked about previously. You're going to have this disjointed thing of all the information is in my company and it's in your company. Let's talk about it. Well, you'll never sit down and have a good flow unless the machines are talking to each other in the same language. Mode of inquiry use, depend what you have out there, who's making the inquiry, make certain that everybody is upfront with who is defining the expectations and what the expectations are. Single points of contact are always really helpful, along with a good, solid communication pathway as to what is being said and how it's being said. Data analysis should take into account the supply chain picture, not just for their aspect, for their little unit. If they can see the big picture, that will help everybody to anticipate what's going to be happening. Say, your order needs to be ready by June 30th. Well, they don't know what's happening down over here unless they talk to them. And then why is it June 30th? Why isn't it July 25th? Why isn't it May 31st? Those kind of details will really help them tool up and also have the labor ready to do that. The information system has to be efficient to produce, assemble, and the warehouse, as well as distribute the products at all levels. Think big picture strategic, and then tactical, and then operational. What does it have to do? If everybody sees the big picture that you're involved with, okay, then they can develop their tactical plans and then the day-to-day operational issues to make it all successful. Make certain everybody's flexible in the system, make certain that the configuration fits, make certain that when there's a goal that everybody knows what that goal is. There's a lot of sophistication in IT systems, but if you can sit down and tweak it so everybody's talking in the same language, same page, in the same time, and you're looking at your customer base, can you expand the customer base if you have good communication? Maybe you can. By the way, just because you may be the end supplier to the customer doesn't mean you should be listening downline, because the people that are making the products, making the parts, may have ideas to expand your customer base. That way, they get more business, you get more business, and the customer gets the product they want in the way that they want it. It's called collaboration among the supply chain partners. Link and work effectively, have a supplier relationship management, an SRM, a customer relationship manager. Everybody has them. There's easy available software right now to do that. The CRM is the most common way to sit down there and track your customer needs in the process, anywhere from getting donors for a college, which I've experienced, to the aspect of making certain that you have people responding, making certain that you're identifying, hey, by the way, I noticed that you've been working that company now for 10 years, effective today. Nice job. Notes help, and they also, the fact you know the customer enough to send personal notes or messages like that, regardless of the relationship you may have, all of a sudden now you're paying attention to them. In sales, the most important words you can possibly learn isn't about you, isn't about your company, it's your customer's name. Make certain on the CRM and the aspect of relationship that you know the customer's name, know who they are. That's a big deal. Have a personal rapport, and don't be so isolated and cold thinking you're just another robot on the line, because we're not robots. We are humans somewhere along the line. It's called partnership. It's supply chain partners, and partnership goes past that piece of paper in the contract. When you start trying to develop things called integrity and trust, which is what we're talking about now, you have to have that to have a solid supply chain. Make certain you don't have all the goals achieved at the same time, because it's not going to happen that way. It's going to be over time period. If you want to reach that magic level 4, they have that good solid communication. And sometimes you develop them independently. They're not dependent upon each other. A lot of times the different goals in this articulation and supply chain and good communication, you have to sit there and focus at one module at a time, and you can target them all in parallel process. The typical the ERP immediate gains by consolidating to a user-friendly platform. I got to tell you, that's always a big deal. If your customers have to go more than 3 clicks to get to the product they want, you got a problem. You need to fix it. 3 is the magic number, and too often I've seen it's a matter of 7 clicks by the customer. You need to pay attention to that, and it applies not just to the customer at the end, it applies to the customer inside. Keep your IT department focused on customer relations all the way up and down the line. And even the number of clicks, that's a detail you should be paying attention to. Single source truth, ideally, everything is in real time or identified by the time it's available. It's single source that you can sit down there and see what is happening out there. That is always the best system. There's a lot of different opportunities. 7-Eleven, if you read the text, they have a spectacular illustration about 7-Eleven. They have some in the United States. We tend to view 7-Eleven in a certain niche. In Japan, it's an entirely different niche in the aspect of they really have people coming in multiple times a day. Could you imagine multiple hits by the same customer in the same store in the same day, multiple hits during the entire week, having them in 5 to 10 times a week? It's incredible the loyalty they've developed over time because they're using good, solid communication on a daily basis up and down that supply chain that was developed in a culture that really has a lot of respect and trust for suppliers, and that word integrity actually means something. If we have that here nonstop, we can do all kinds of wonderful things in our different organizations. The retail information system they have in the stores, it really provides timely sales data, up and down the chain. They can see how many sandwiches are made, how many chicken salad sandwiches made, how many tamales are made. Like, oh my gosh, up and down the line. Oh, and by the way, somewhere along the line, how much soda, how much alcohol, how much whatever. They communicate nonstop up and down the line. And they've been highly successful in expansion, increasing sales and additional spaces, and increasing the overall bottom line of them because they talk to each other with good, solid communication. Accurate data collection and good business process, they drive quality supply chains. Take care.